Hello, and welcome to the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation CISM Live Series, where we connect with critical incident stress management subject matter experts live on YouTube. My name is Kelly, and I'm the Development Coordinator for the ICISF and the host of the CISM Live Series. As we go through the discussion today, to our viewers watching today, if you have any questions, ask us in the chat, and we'll ask Conrad Weaver live. My guest speaker today, as I mentioned, is Conrad Weaver, who is an award-winning documentary filmmaker, podcast host, speaker, producer, and director with a passion for telling stories that matter. Conrad has been telling stories through documentary films for more than 10 years, and his films and work have taken him from the slums of Guatemala and orphanages in Ukraine to the halls of Congress on Capitol Hill, and everywhere in between. Whenever Conrad takes on a film project, he dives deep into the culture to get to know the story and become an expert on the subject. His films have won many prestigious awards, including a Regional EMMY Award. Whether it's through his films or his podcast, Conrad's goal is to inspire others to live a life of meaning and purpose. Welcome, Conrad.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here today.
So today we're actually going to be discussing the PTSD 911 documentary, which is a film about real people, normal, average human beings who have chosen to work in professions that require above average heroism, fortitude, and resolve. So Conrad, can you tell us about the PTSD 911 documentary film and kind of its focus?
Sure. So this film, I'll give you a little bit of background. My previous film that I produced is called Heroin's Grip. It's a story about the opioid crisis that we filmed here in Maryland, and it was a story that was really powerful and sometimes a little depressing and challenging to produce because of the story, the subject matter. And in the course of producing that film, I was privileged to do some ride-alongs with local law enforcement and with fire and EMS services. And in the course of those ride-alongs, one day we were called to a fatal overdose scene. And as a civilian, I'm not a first responder. I'm not trained in medicine or in law enforcement. I don't experience these things very often or ever. And so walking into a home where there was total chaos and pandemonium and a body laying in the bathroom someone who had died from an overdose, was very traumatic for me. And that afternoon, as I went home, I started thinking about that incident, and I started thinking about the first responders, the law enforcement officers I was with, and the paramedics and the EMTs who were on scene as well, and started thinking about how they deal with these kind of traumas day in and day out. And as we all know, the opioid crisis has, many, many thousands, tens of thousands of people die every year, and all of our communities are impacted by that. And while it's always tragic for anyone to experience a death and a fatality or see a scene like that, our law enforcement, our paramedics, our first responders, they see things that are way worse than that on a regular basis. And so I started thinking about that, and I thought there must be a serious impact on the well-being of these individuals who have chosen this line of work. And as I did my research, I discovered indeed there is really a problem with trauma that's impacting our first responders. And so in the course of producing a film, I always look at, okay, what else has been done? What other filmmakers have told this story? And as in my research, I discovered that there's been a ton of films made about returning veterans and the challenges that they face and the traumas that they have faced, which is a very, very relevant and really tragic story to tell. But almost nothing has been done film-wise regarding our first responders. And so I like to say I threw my hat over the fence and decided to go make a movie and make a documentary and tell this story, because I think the general public needs to know. It needs to know what our first responders are facing and the challenges that they have that most of us don't know about or many of us don't even care about, but we should. We should care. We should know about it. And so that's why I'm making this film.
So then that brings me to my next question. Then what are the goals for this film? Um, can you kind of take us through what
Yeah,
those are?
sure. Yeah, and whenever I make a film, and as you said in my bio, I like to tell stories that matter,
Mhm.
and this film is no different. I believe this story matters deeply, and because we have first responders in every community in our country, and I dare say every community in the world has some type of first responders and
Mhm.
who are impacted by these traumas. And so I feel that my goals are three. One is to raise awareness for the general public to know and understand what first responders deal with, what our fire, EMS, our public servants, what they deal with on a regular basis, just to raise that awareness. These are the traumas that they face. These are the challenges that they face, and so raising that awareness is important. That's goal number one. Goal number two is to help smash the stigma of asking for help. Part of the problem that many first responders face in their agencies are that if I raise my hand and ask for help, I may lose my job because I wear a badge, I wear a gun, or perhaps I'm just, I'm a macho guy and I don't want to admit that I'm having trouble in my mental facility, faculties.
Mhm.
I want to help smash that stigma. We want to show case studies of first responders who are doing it right and are doing it well and are thriving, once they've been through the traumas and they've dealt with that directly. And we want to showcase what people are doing to mitigate these traumas, to mitigate the aftermath of these traumas. So goal number one is to raise awareness. Goal number two is to smash the stigma. And goal number three is to inspire change in agencies. And this probably is the more challenging goal because our agencies are institutions that have been around for many many years, and there's been a background of just suck it up buttercup,
Mhm.
in many many agencies, and we want to inspire change. I don't think any movie can make change happen, but we can inspire change. And I think that's what we can do with. I want a police chief in wherever in the country who's kind of that suck it up buttercup mentality. I want that person to see this film and to see the case studies that we produce in the film, that we show in the film, and to say, wow, if that agency can make a change and really help their members thrive in this kind of environment, then we can as well, and begin to reach out to make those changes happen. And so those are the three goals: to raise awareness,
Mhm.
smash the stigma, and inspire change. And I hope that with the production of this film, we can accomplish all three goals.
That's Those are definitely lofty goals and inspiring goals for the documentary. Um, so with what you're doing, you actually have been doing a First Responder Friday podcast
Hmm.
each week where you speak with first responders about their experiences with PTSD. Um, what guest speakers were the most memorable within this series?
Yeah, that was a really amazing series that we did, and we ended that a few weeks ago because we want to really focus now on the movie. But
Mhm.
we had a wide variety of guests, from national leaders in law enforcement and fire and EMS services to individuals who came through the darkness, so to speak. And you know, one of that really stands out to me is actually, well, a number of them stand out to me, but one is my friend now, Maddie Fiorenza, who's a firefighter in Anaheim. And
Mhm.
Maddie just has an amazing story, and we're going to feature his story in our film. And but the things that he went through to get to where he is today, it was pretty amazing. Coming to the brink of suicide, and then having a chief who was aware enough about what was going on in Maddie's life to say, "Hey, you know what, Maddie, you need to go get help." And having that chief then, out of the course of that, and where Maddie was at, he actually lost his job. He no longer worked at that fire station, and because of the things that he was involved in, because of the traumas that he had experienced, and then once he got help and was able to uh, work through the difficulties that he had been through, that chief hired him back, and Matt is now a voice in that city, in that fire department, in helping others. He's reaching back to help others, and those are the kind of stories we want to tell in our film, of people who have been to the brink and are now making a difference for others, so that when others come along and have these challenges, that there can be help. And he shows, and he's this guy, he's got tattoos everywhere, and he's just a firefighter's firefighter,
Right.
and he goes into a fire station someplace to share his story, and you know he talks about wellness, he talks about being quiet, and taking care of your soul, and taking care of your whole being.
Hmm.
And he makes an impact because he has a real story, and he's very real, very open. He sheds tears. In fact, I had him on my show. He was shedding tears, and he was like, this is who I am, and I'm not ashamed of that. And that is inspiring to me. And so, we're looking for others, and we've found, people in law enforcement, and in 911 dispatch, and paramedics. We've found these people who are willing to share their story, and so we're really excited about that.
That's amazing. And if individuals actually, are they able to go back and watch your First Responder Friday series?
Yeah, sure. It's most of the video. So we did it on video. So most of it is on
Okay.
our YouTube channel. And so if you go to YouTube and you just search PTSD 911 movie, you
Hmm.
can find it, and all the videos are there. Or you can go to our website, ptsd911movie.com. And if you click, I think there's a link there that says podcast. If you click on that, it'll take you to the page where you can watch the videos as well. But yeah, like I said, we've interviewed, a ton of people, individual stories, and then we interviewed a number of leaders in law enforcement. In fact, we had the immediate past president of the International Chiefs of Police on back in early January. We
Oh,
had
wow.
we had the immediate past president of the International Fire Chiefs on as well.
Mm.
And both of these men, were passionate uh, about wellness in their agency types, and the leadership that they represent is making change and is inspiring change. And so that was one of my goals, is to bring on people to that show who are already doing it, already making changes, already having an impact in their agency. And we featured some firefighters and paramedics and 911 dispatch. When I was first working on this film, I reached out to our local fire station here. I live in Emmitsburg, Maryland, and many people in the first responder community know about Emmitsburg because it's the home of the National Emergency Training Center,
Hmm.
and the FEMA's training center is here. And so our local fire station is a mostly volunteer fire station. And
Hmm.
so I've been friends with them for a number of years. And so I went up to talk to the president of the fire company, and I was sharing with him about our film, and he was very excited about it. And then he said, "Have you thought about including 911 dispatch in this film?" And I was like, that hasn't occurred to me. Tell me why. And then he said, "Well, I'm a 911 dispatcher. I take calls in Frederick County, and I manage that." And he said, "We hear the trauma in our ears, and then our brain recreates those scenes. And oftentimes we don't get closure. We don't know what happened to that situation. And trauma has impacted many, many dispatchers." And so in my research, I started looking into that. And sure enough, I found many organizations who are focused on dispatch, and actually have several people on our advisory board for the film that are in the 911 dispatch arena. And in just a couple of weeks, I'll be going to Boston to interview a 911 dispatcher who's still active. She's doing amazing things in her city, and has an amazing story that we're going to tell through this film. So there are so many different aspects, of this story that we're kind of chasing to
Hmm.
really tell the story well, and to help everyone understand what our first responders do and what they go through.
And what they go through day in and day out.
Day in and day out, right? And 24/7. I mean, here in my little town, our volunteer fire station, they blow a siren whenever there's a call. And
Right.
so sometimes I wake up at 2:30 in the morning and, there's firefighters and paramedics heading out the door, you getting out of their homes and rushing over to the fire hall, jumping on an apparatus and heading down the street, and we're comfortable in our bed and they're out there taking care of business. And so, uh, yeah, it's really, for me, it's a privilege and an honor to tell this story and to be a part of this community in this way.
So where do you see the PTSD 911 documentary film going then? Like, what will happen after the film is complete?
Well, that's a great question, and we work on that diligently even now. In fact, I was on a call earlier today, with an organization, a national organization, that we're looking at working with them to create events around the country for the film. But really, it's several layers of distribution that I'm working on. The first is we're going to have a premiere event in a live, hopefully in-person event in the DC area as well as in LA. And so these will be like a film premiere. So, think
Okay.
red carpet, the whole fun, exciting event like that, maybe even searchlights in the sky. I don't know.
Getting
Maybe
dressed
we'll
up.
yeah, maybe we'll have fire trucks and ambulances and police cars out front, out front of the theater. So that'll be kind of our first launch. Will be these public events like that where sponsors will be there, people that are in the film, people that have helped support the film will be invited to be there for this exciting event. But then we're planning a kind of what Disney did with Mulan. They did a big digital premiere, streaming premiere. And so we're going to be working with a website, uh, a platform that helps distribute films this way. And so we're going to put on an event that will be where you'll buy a ticket. I don't know, I'm just pulling, maybe $14.95 for your household. You'll buy a ticket and you'll be
Mhm.
able to go to this website. You'll get a link to go to this website at 8 o'clock on Friday night, and there will be a live stream of the movie. And following that stream, there will be a live, hopefully interactive panel discussion with leading experts from around the country, uh, talking about the subject of the film and talking about where we go from here. And so that'll be kind of a streaming event with a live aspect to it as well. And so that's and then the stream will be, you will have several reiterations of that. You'll be able to buy a ticket and then watch the replay a few days later. But then the next phase will be rolling it out in events around the country. So your organization, your agency, your city can reach out to us and host a screening event where we'll organize an event in a local, perhaps community college or local theater, and then we'll work to bring together a panel of experts from your city, and we'll have the event, we'll have the screening, and we'll have the panel of experts that will have a discussion following the film, so that I not only want to show a film that makes an impact, but I want to uh, create a plan of action. And so
Mhm.
local communities can have this discussion that, okay, where do we go from here? What do we need to do? What do we need to do as a police agency, as a firefighter group? What do we need to do as dispatchers in our community, in our local city? And so that's what I really hope that happens wherever we have these events, that it will inspire immediate change and a step toward change in those cities and those agencies. And then what phase am I at? 4, I think, will be a release on Amazon or some other streaming platform where it'll sit for a long time and continue to impact people as they find it. Um, Whether or not we'll have a DVD or Blu-ray release, that's still up in the air, just because of who's buying those anymore. There surprisingly still are people who are buying DVDs, but which boggles my mind. But so we'll see about that. But then the most exciting part for me is that we are going to be working, and I guess this is a big announcement. We have a verbal agreement with ICISF to work on a package with the film that is and my brain is not working right now, kind of a thing that people can purchase, agencies can purchase to view the film and other resources related to the film, to be kind of have a workshop, provide training, and so it'll be a resource for agencies. And so we're really excited to be working with ICISF to develop that once the film's done, and over the years we'll have that ready to go. So um, uh,
And
yeah,
we're excited to be working with you too.
yeah, it's really exciting, and I think I was just talking to Rick a few weeks ago about this, and uh, really think that we can put together an amazing package that agencies can purchase, that include the film and other resources that will really help those agencies get to the next step in wellness and mental health for their agencies and for their members.
So, I mean, that kind of brings up, I wanted to pose this question to you to get your thoughts on. So for you personally, you've interviewed, I can't tell you how many first responders, just to get ready for this PTSD 911 documentary film.
Mm-hmm.
What are your personal takeaways that you've learned when speaking with all of these individuals?
Well, I think for me, it does become personal. I have good friends who are first responders. I have, just from my previous film, Heroine's Grip, I've made some really good friends in law enforcement and in the emergency services here in our county.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a neighbor who's a sheriff's deputy, and so we become good friends. And so it does become personal for me, and I see the impact that these kind of stories have on these individuals. And here these folks who put on a badge, who are working to rescue the community, to save the community, to help the community, protect the community. They make sacrifices that most of us don't have to make. When holidays come, they don't get a break. When Christmas Day comes, I know this past Christmas, I believe, at least on previous Christmases here, the fire trucks went out, and responded to a fire. Um, Law enforcement doesn't take the day off because it's a holiday. Sometimes those holidays are even more stressful than on a normal day for different agencies. And so here are these people who have made these sacrifices. They're away from their family. They're away from, the gat. They miss the birthday parties. They miss different things. And yet they are impacted by some of these events that they experience. And oftentimes they take that. They always take those experiences home. And whether they share them or not, that those experiences, those memories are in their minds, and it's impacting them. It's impacting them in their relationships. It's impacting them in their friendships and their health, their mental well-being. And we must, as a community, we must do something to support them. If we want to continue to have healthy people responding to our emergencies, then we must do everything we can to provide the resources, whether they're the city, funds, whether they're the county or the state resources, to help our first responders be well. If we don't do that, we're going to continue to see things that on the evening news, some of the things that were big on the news, this past year. I'm sure that mental health and wellness had some impact on that, on the reason those things went down. And, I think if we want to see fewer incidents like that show up on the news, and we must provide the resources, we must be willing to provide the resources to help our law enforcement officers, our medics, our dispatchers, our firefighters. We must help them be well. And sometimes that means, talking directly to our legislators. Sometimes it means talking to our city officials, city leaders, and encouraging them, imploring them to provide more resources for our agencies. Instead of defunding agencies, we need to fund agencies in order to have better wellness training and mental health support for all of our first responder communities. And for me, I think it becomes personal because when I pick up the phone and dial 911, my prayer is that a healthy person answers the phone and that my emergency, which I've done before, I've called 911 and my emergency, I'm hoping that a healthy individual shows up at my front door. Here a number of years ago, I made a dumb mistake. I was working out one morning and I didn't hydrate.
Mhm.
And I almost passed out, and my son was home from high school at the time, and he was like, "Dad, what's going on? What's going on?" I said, "Well, I'm not sure." And I was just about blacked out. And so he called 911 and the paramedics came, and actually the lead that walked in the doors is a friend of mine, and he's actually on our advisory board for our film. And he was like, "Conrad, what did you do?" And so here they came into my house, put me on a stretcher and hauled me off to the emergency room. And fortunately, it was just a dehydration issue. It wasn't anything more serious. But when I pick up the phone and call 911, I really hope that those who are responding are healthy. And that's what we need. We need healthy people responding. And too many times that isn't the case. They're not healthy, perhaps because of some incident that they had, or perhaps because their agency didn't provide the resources for them to, or the training for them to be well. I think it's a shame when agencies don't include mental wellness training in their training for new recruits. I think it's got to be mandatory that new recruits get trained in mental health and wellness and how to deal with. I talked to so many people who said, "Yeah, my training consisted of an hour." Someone talking, "Yeah, you're going to see stuff." And I was like, "Really? That's all you got?" "That's all I got." And then, here's your badge and your gun, go out in the street and do your business. And all they got was, "You're going to see stuff." And that's a tragedy. There's got to be more. And so we've got to, as a community, rise up and say, look, we've got to provide these resources for our law enforcement, for our paramedics, for our dispatchers, for firefighters, so that they can take care of our communities the way they need to be taken care of.
And I think it's important for any individual that may encounter a critical incident, but especially our first responders, because they are out there, day in, day out, responding to these crises. Um,
Absolutely.
It's super important. Well, we do have a question from some of our viewers, so I'd like to ask you if that's okay.
Sure.
One of our viewers asked, in your research, have you looked at the possibility of a connection between the world of first responders and the personality that is typically drawn to those roles? And if so, is there any type of connection between that typical, quote unquote, typical personality and a proneness to PTSD?
I'm not a scientist or a doctor, or do I play one on TV? But I think certainly most first responders that I've talked to, their number one reason for joining their particular agency is they want to help. They're the helpers, right? And so, and many, and I'm certain not all, there are a few that I've talked to personally who have had experienced trauma when they were young. And because of that trauma, they, want to make a difference in the world, and perhaps, now dealing with the traumas that they face every day, perhaps those past memories have, risen up. There is certainly in some cases a connection between, earlier childhood trauma and current, a diagnosis of PTSD. Not always, but sometimes there is that connection. Uh, and there's plenty of people, even on our advisory board for the film. If you go to our website and click on advisors, you can see our advisory board, and there's a ton of them on there who are scientists and who have studied these things. And you can certainly reach out to them and ask them about this question. And it's something that we're going to be interviewing a few of these folks that have studied this, and we're going to learn more about that. that very question throughout the course of our producing this film. And so we haven't yet had some of those long conversations with these researchers, but we're about to. And so we're excited to be able to dive into that in a deeper way.
Well, I know I'm excited about seeing the PTSD 911 documentary. So what can our viewers do to help with this documentary film and stay informed of the process? Like, do you have an email list that individuals can sign up for to stay updated?
Sure, absolutely. There's a number of places so whenever I produce a film, I immediately launch all the social sites. So we've got uh, Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and those are all at PTSD 911 movie. So if you
Okay.
go on those different platforms, you can find us, and we update those channels almost daily in some form. And we keep things posted there. But we also have a website, PTSD911movie.com, and on the website there is a button that says, or a link that says, sign up for our email list. And so we encourage people to do that. We have an email list right now that we're sending out to on a regular basis, and those who sign up get kind of the first to know, so to speak. And so if you want to keep up with what we're doing, please sign up for that. And what I can do later, I can put a comment in the YouTube channel. We can put all those links in there so people can access them directly from this video. But how can people support? I think the biggest way, well, there's a couple of ways people can support this. One is to follow us and follow our progress. We have nearly 5,000 people following us on our Facebook page,
That's amazing.
and close to 1,000 on Instagram, and Twitter is not quite as big, but and probably because I don't use Twitter quite as much as Instagram, but people are certainly following. We have daily signups on our Instagram, and so we're growing that audience tremendously. And but so it's been really fun seeing especially our Facebook page grow, and just that people sharing it. And so get on there, like it, and then share it widely. And if you have 300 friends that go ahead and send them the link and just say, hey, follow this and be a part of this. And then the second way, and a really important way for people to support us, is to support us financially. Films like this cost a lot of money to travel and for production, and we have a sizable budget that we're trying to raise money for. And to date we've raised about $23,000 for the film,
Oh, wow.
and that's about less than 5% of what we need to really
Mhm.
produce this. And so we have opportunities for individuals. So we have a way for you to make a donation that you get a tax benefit from that. If you go to our website and PTSD911movie.com, and there's a button right there that says support this film, that takes you off our site to another site. Our fiscal sponsor is the Film Collaborative. They're a film organization out of Los Angeles, and they're a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit. And when you make a donation through their site, you get a tax benefit for that. And so I encourage people to do that. And if you're an organization that is involved in the first responder community and want to partner with us in a bigger way, we would love to talk to you. We have sponsorship levels where you can become anywhere from $5,000 to $250,000 in sponsorship, and you have different levels of visibility in the film as a part of the film that way. And so if you want that information, there's also a form on our website that you can click on and fill out, and we'll send you that information. Or you can reach out to me directly. My email is Conrad, CONRAD, at Conjo Studios, CONJOSTUDIOS.com. Reach out to me directly and say, hey, I want to give you a check for $250,000. I'll be happy to talk to you. But we are needing funds. We're starting to travel this month, and that's an exciting thing. And, we have a little bit of funds to do that, but one thing that's holding us back is really once we have the funding in place, then we're going to go full out and to get this film produced. If you want, I can share a little bit about what we're doing in the next few weeks. Um,
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
yeah, so we are actually starting production, and that means I'll be shooting some interviews. In fact, this week on Friday, I'll be shooting the
Mhm.
first interview with a law enforcement official, and here in the DC area. And so once that's done, then in a few weeks I'll be up in the Boston area working with a dispatcher, and who was actually impacted by the Boston Marathon bombing. She was kind of participated with
Oh,
that
wow.
call as a 911 dispatcher, and so she was impacted by that. And we're going to tell her story. She has an amazing story, and we can't wait to capture that. So in a couple of weeks, I'll be in Boston, spending a couple of days with her and her team to
Mhm.
tell that story. And then we're planning a trip to Northern California in April, and working with an organization there, a fire organization there,
Mhm.
and doing some really fun things with them and what they are doing to help mitigate trauma and the impact of trauma on their firefighters. And so those are some things we're doing immediately. We have connections in Southern California that we're going to be working with, some people in Cleveland and in Illinois. And so we have a lot of travel in our future to produce this. And fortunately, I have a great co-producer, Nancy Froman. She's working with me on this, and she's kind of the behind the scenes work and making the connections and arranging stuff and helping to make things happen. So it is a team effort. And then I really can't, I cannot leave out our advisory board. We have an amazing group of advisors, including Rick Barton with the ICISF. He was actually our very first advisor on this film, and so we're really happy to have him. But we have some amazing people who are very experienced in all of these areas, um, that are kind of advising us behind the scenes on how we should tell this story, and just being there as a resource for us. And we have a number of people that have gone above and beyond, just connecting us with resources and people and stories, and and then we have a TV personality that you may recognize, Tom Morse Jr. with Live PD. He is one of our advisors, and he's been so gracious and giving us his support and advice, and just being there for us as an advisor on this project. And so our advisory board is really vital for us to show that we have people that know what they're talking about,
Mhm.
and can help us be effective in telling this story. So really thankful for them. And we have other organizations that have sent us letters of endorsement or letters of support, and organizations like the Concerns of Police Survivors, Blue Help, of course, ICISF, and a number of other ones that have issued us letters of support. And so we're very grateful for everyone who's been involved with this. And I want to also say that we've had many, many, many people who have already made donations. We've had donations as little as $5 to as much as $10,000 toward our project. And so we're so grateful for every dollar that comes in. It is so important for us to be able to raise that money so that we can tell this story. We can't do it without raising the funds. It costs the travel and the pay people and all that. So those
Right.
are important things that we need to make this story happen.
Well, that's all wonderful things. I'd like to kind of talk a little bit more about your website.
Mhm.
So the PTSD 911 documentary film will shed light on the hidden and often stigmatized mental health issues impacting many first responders across the world. The film shows that it is okay for first responders to ask for help, and Conrad hopes that the PTSD 911 will inspire agencies to make systemic changes in how they train and support their members. If any of you would like to learn more, you can learn more about this film by visiting the website at ptsd911movie.com. There's a link in the description. As Conrad mentioned earlier, you can also support the PTSD 911 documentary film by making a tax-deductible contribution by visiting their fundraising page. That link is also in the description as well. You can also sign up for their emails and stay informed about upcoming events going on. We also at ICISF have a PTSD 911 press release on our website in the resources/CISM news section. You can learn more by visiting our website at www.ici.org and learn more in our resources section. I'd like to thank Conrad for joining us today for our CISM Live series, where we connect with critical incident stress management subject matter experts live on YouTube. Everyone can join us next Wednesday, March 24th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we speak with Dr. Stephanie Kahn about first responders, resilient minds for chaotic times. If you're not already, be sure to subscribe to ICISF's YouTube channel so you don't miss out when we go live. And for all of our first responders or crisis responders out there, both Conrad and I would like to thank you for your continued service day in and day out and for everything that you guys do. And we hope to see you guys next time.